G'day ladies and gentlemen, ScottyD here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome into another installment in our Wargaming Highlight series. Alrighty everyone, so welcome into another installment for our Wargaming Highlight series, and today's installment is going to be a little bit different. So the weekend just gone, I actually played in a round robin day where myself and three other mates, Bren, Andrew, and James, we all got together at one of the guys' places and we played 3 games of 40k in a day, and it's been a very long time since I've played 3 games of 40k back to back virtually as well. It was a really great day to play some 40k, and so we're going to jump in to have a little bit of a look at my list. We'll talk about who I played in the order, you know, how my list functions as well, and a whole heap of other stuff. So why don't we jump over to the gaming table and have a look at the army I was running for the day.
Alrighty everyone, so this was the list that I played at the round robin day over the weekend with a few of my mates. So I'll start off by going through the characters. So we've got a captain on the right hand side there with the Relic shield, Mastercraft power sword and heavy bolt pistol. He has also got the Adept to the Codex enhancement. We've then got a lieutenant with Neo Vorkat pistol, storm shield and Mastercraft power sword with the Firestorm discipline, or fire discipline I should say, enhancement. And then we've just got a regular Phobos lieutenant in there as well. Then going to our only battle line unit in the army, we have got a unit of 5 intercessors up the back there. Now for the rest of the units, we're going to go left to right here. I employ a unit of 5 scouts, well actually 2 units of 5 scouts actually, with heavy bolter in there and just bolters on the rest. Have then got 2 units of 3 bikes, just long vigil melee weapons on the 2 regular guys, and then the Xenophase blade on the sergeants in the unit. A single unit of incursors with their haywire mine. I've then got a unit of 10 Sternguard veterans with bolters and then power fist on the sergeant as well. Unit of 5 infiltrators that have got the Helix Gauntlet and comms array. Unit of 3 Devastator Centurions with las cannons and Centurion missile launchers in there. Have then got a unit of 5 assault intercessors with jump packs with 2 plasma pistols and a power fist on the sergeant. And then the second unit of 3 bikes with the Xenophase blade on the sergeant, and the second unit of 5 scouts. In terms of heavier units, I've got 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I've got another one on the other side with a... I've got the Macro Plasma Cannon, the Onslaught Gatling Cannon, Storm Bolters, and Icarus Rocket Pod. Then I've got a Predator Annihilator with twin las cannon, 2 las cannons, Hunter Killer Missile, and Storm Bolter. I've then got a Whirlwind that has got Storm Bolter and Hunter Killer Missile as well, and then another Redemptor Dreadnought that has got the exact same loadout as the first one as well. So this list comes in at about 1990 points, so right on the cusp of, you know, 2,000 points for a good list. It's got a lot of objective taking units and units that can do a lot of scoring for me, as well as having some damage dealing units.
Alrighty, so now that we've had a bit of a look at the army, I want to explain a little bit how it functions, because this is a very different style of Gladius Task Force list that I've seen from a lot of different people taking. Now, yes, it is Deathwatch. It is a Deathwatch Gladius because we do have those 2 units of Deathwatch veterans on bikes. So that's what means that we're in the Deathwatch faction rather than being in the main Space Marines. So there's a couple of synergies here that work really nicely with a couple of different areas. Now, the first big unit I want to explain is the Sternguard veterans. Now, in the recent balanced data slate, they've dropped to 180 points from 200. At 200 points, they were great value. I still think at 180, they're even better value. You compare them to aggressors, yes, you do have less toughness and less wounds. However, you are still able to get a decent amount of protective buffs on them, whilst also being able to put out almost as much firepower as the aggressors as well when you engage. So the combination that I run in the Sternguard is I actually run the captain that has got the Adept to the Codex enhancement to allow the unit to always be in tactical doctrine. Now that's something that's really important, and I'll get into that in a little bit. We also have the lieutenant that's got the fire discipline enhancement. Now what that enhancement allows is sustained hits 1 for the unit, and when in Devastator Doctrine, they get critical hits on fires, and the lieutenant also gives them lethal hits, which means that every lethal hit also turns into a sustained hit one, meaning that it's just additional wounds that I'm causing through the lethal hits. And I still get to roll my to wound roll, which is really important because I've got all bolt rifles on the unit, which have devastating wounds from the stern guard. So super important there that you're still rolling the to wound roll to try and get those devastating wounds through. Now, there is a little bit of an overlap here because Tactical Doctrine does the exact same thing as what a Lieutenant does, where it is fall back, shoot, and charge. However, there is some synergy to it, and that is the squad tactics stratagem. Now, what this stratagem is if you spend a CP, if you're during your opponent's movement phase, if you have an enemy unit that moves within 9 inches of your unit, you get to make a reactive move up to D6 inches. However, if you're under the effects of the Tactical Doctrine, you make that a full 6-inch normal move. So when the Stern Guard vets are under the effects of Tactical Doctrine, when I haven't popped Devastated Doctrine or I'm not spending the CP to put them into Devastated Doctrine, then they're able to get that 6-inch fallback move and they're able to really get out of a, charge range of something that's going to be like, oh, cool, I'm going to need like a 4-inch charge. Now it's going to be a 10. So those kind of things are really important to think of when protecting this main fire unit for my army. The other synergy as well is the Incursors and the Centurions. Now, you might think why I've got Incursors in the list when they're not commonly taken. So Incursors, when they shoot at a target, you can select one of them that you've successfully hit, and any other Astartes unit that is firing at that target for the rest of the phase actually gets +1 to hit. Now, I'd previously run this unit without the Lieutenant and just found I would expose them. I'd shoot at a unit, be able to get good effect with Centurions, and then they get blown away. Whereas now with the Lieutenant, I can be a little bit more coy with them, where I can go, cool, they get a reactive D6-inch normal move after they shoot. So I can actually put them out into the open, shoot what I want to, and then use that D6 move. Maybe I've only exposed 2 or 3 models. Use that D6-inch move to get back behind line of sight or minimize the amount of models that can be seen. And so as soon as they take a casualty or two, the exposed models are the ones that are taken. Nothing else can then shoot at the unit, and I've still got them around to utilize and be quite effective. Now, the key with the Centurions is Centurions innately have a reroll 1s to hit, and if the enemy is on an objective marker, they full rerolls to hit. Now, Centurions normally hit on a 3+ with all of their weapons, so you can see where I'm going here is that you shoot at the target with the Incursors first, that you want to shoot your Centurions at. And with my Centurions being, Devastator Centurions with las cannons and missile launchers, I'm really hunting big, heavy targets. So with the Phobos Lieutenant still giving lethal hits to the Incursors, I can get a little bit of chip damage through potentially as well. So get a couple of hits, maybe a wound or two, might lose a wound from that. And then the Centurions go in, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, effectively making the target that they're shooting at another Oath of Moment target, where they're effectively getting full rerolls to hit against them. So that's 2 main synergies there, the Stern Guard brick and then the Incursors with the Centurions, the 2 main firepower bases of the army. Now, there are a few units that just don't require support at all or very minimal, and that's going to be the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Both of these guys are kind of close combat threat as well as range threat, but at the same time, they're distraction carnifexes for my list. Pretty much, I will generally frontline them and go, okay, cool, deal with it. If my opponent can deal with it, great. If they can tie stuff up for a turn or two, do a lot of shooting and kill a lot of things, great. That's awesome. Do they get blown off the table straight away, which they did in one of my first games, which was against Bren, on this round robin day? Yeah, they do sometimes. They get blown away turn 1, but that's the point. They draw out the firepower from other areas, and there's a good reason why that occurs. And it means that my Stern Guard don't get overwatched if I move out. My Centurions and Incursors are relatively safe if I have to expose them, because if they go for the Centurions, well then, okay, cool. You got 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts bearing down your face, and they've got an 8-inch move with a potential 12-inch charge. Yeah, they've got a lot of threat range and can get into combat and do a lot of damage. Then the 2 Deathwatch veterans on bike units, serve an interesting role. They're kind of like the assault intercessors in a way, which the assault intercessors always in deep strike, generally going for my opponent's side of the field to get engage on all fronts, deploy teleport homers behind enemy lines, those kind of objectives as that style of unit. But the bikes, they can do engage on all fronts relatively well. They auto advance 6 inches, so they move 12, advance 6, can get into an opponent's table quarter pretty quickly if my opponent isn't careful, but also they are great for screening with such large bases. So for an 80-point unit to go, cool, I'm going to screen off this entire line so you can't even get past here unless you kill the bikes off. Or if you don't kill the bikes off with shooting, you've got to get them in melee to get past, or you've got to have the fly keyword. They're really effective at doing that for such little points. Yes, Outriders are now the same points, they're larger bases, additional wounds, but they don't do as much in combat. And that's where I prefer the Deathwatch bikes over Outriders, is that Strength 5 -2 1 damage attack is so much better than the Strength 4 -1 1 damage from the Outriders. The Deathwatch bikes also get the Xenophase Blade on the Sergeant that gives them devastating wounds there as well, so they can force some damage through. Even though it's 1 wound at a time, it can all help. Now, the Scouts, I've got 2 units of 5 Scouts. Generally, I will be a bit conservative if I need to, if I'm going to play quite tactically with tactical objectives and just go, all right, cool, I'm going to hunt for things. But they are also really great at screening, infiltrate them forward, make sure they're outside of 9, clearing up 2 or 3 of the heaviest access points an opponent can use. This came into really good effect during my game 3 with Andrew, who was running Space Wolf Thundercav. So I was able to screen those off, force him to go a different way, and divert a full brick of Thundercav through a different laneway that took him more time to then engage me, and it gave me time to neutralize 1 brick in basically a turn. So things like that, being very tactical with the Scouts, using them to screen, but then also, cheeky grenade strat for 1 CP to do some mortal wounds. Did some good damage from them, and a few other abilities that they have, being able to be picked up, put back down for tactical secondaries if your opponent's not able to screen you out, is really solid as well. So that's basically the crux of it. I do have the Whirlwind for some indirect to be able to deal with enemy infiltrators if they don't have the Phobos Librarian in there, or I can deal with enemy scouts pretty easily, or really anything else that's backfield chaff to clear out so that I can get the Assault Intercessors down there as well. Also got the Predator Annihilator in there. Rerolling 1s to damage rolls is actually really important for this list because I don't have that much high anti-tank weapons except from the Centurions and the Predator. It means that being able to guarantee at least a minimum of 3 damage from my las cannons on that reroll. Hopefully I don't reroll into a 1, but it does happen. And not have to spend a CP to reroll that damage is actually really nice as well. And it's always against monsters and vehicles, which the Predator's always going to go after as well. So it's a really solid unit to neutralize enemy vehicles, I find, in this list. Also, it's got the movement to get to where you need it for the fire lanes as well. If you're in Dev Doctrine, you're able to advance it. It gets a decent advance. It can move quite well across the side of the field to get into different fire lanes, to pick off different units, and do quite effective things. So with that, basically the list being explained there in terms of how I play it, let's jump into the first game and see how we go against Bren, who is running his Thousand Suns.
Alrighty, everyone. So we got round 1 of this round robin day, and first draw, I managed to pull Bren, who is running his Thousand Suns, into my Marines. The mission is sweep and clear with sweeping engagement deployment. Purge the foe as the primary mission. Also got secret intel, so we're deploying additional secondaries and then drawing. Bren does not have the optimal play here. He took tactical. I've also taken tactical, so we'll see how things go for this battle. We'll come to see how this game goes towards the end. Bren has got top of the turn, so it'll be very interesting to see how the Marines go going into this matchup. Alrighty, everyone, so we just finished round 1, and it came down to both of us clocking out on time at the bottom of turn 4. The score, however, Bren managed to pull it out 74-61. I was in a really good position turn 2, and then secondaries on the last turn just kind of screwed me. I got some kills and some secure no man's land, which I really couldn't achieve with what I had left on the field. I did try to get
the additional No Man's Land one, but I just could not catch up in the end of things. But really solid game to start off the day. Now we're going to have a bit of a lunch break before we get into game 2. Alrighty, so this game with Bren was really tough. I did lose 61 to 74. Now, we weren't including Battle Ready whatsoever, and the mission for this one was sweeping engagement with 2 mission rules. We had Secret Intel, so drawing an additional secondary tactical objective card and discarding one, as well as having sticky objectives. Now, having the intercessors in my list, they can stick the home objective and usually move. Any unit could stick in this case for me, which was really nice. I did just not contest primary as much as I wanted to. It was Purge the Foe, which means, I get 4 points for killing an enemy unit, 4 points for killing more. Then in my command phase, the killings at the battle round, the command phase one, 4 points of holding an objective and 4 points for holding more, where holding more was a real struggle against Bren. It was quite effective in being able to just throw units on objectives, whether that was his Armament Brick or a Rhino or solo Sorcerers or one of the 3 units of 10 Cultists that he has in his list. Magnus really did come around that flank and get in my backfield. I just didn't focus on Magnus, to be honest. I wanted to deal with the rest of the list and try and get into different areas, and I did quite well. Previously, I have focused on Magnus and not dealt with a lot of other things, and it's meant that I haven't been able to neutralize Bren's scoring, so I was able to keep him down by 16 points here, which is really nice, and get over 60, which I'm quite happy with, as Bren is probably one of my toughest opponents when I do play against him. And so, yeah, really solid game. And then game 2, we go in and we're going to play against James, who's running an Ironstorm Blood Angels list. And so we're going to jump to that game and see how things went. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we are up to round 2, and I'm playing James, who is running a Blood Angels Ironstorm. We are playing Crucible of Battle with Supply Lines, which is hold your home objective to get CP, and Scorched Earth, which is a really interesting mission. So lots of vehicles, lots of stuff to kill, with some good tech pieces in the army for James as well. So we'll see how this game goes for the Deathwatch Gladius. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so we just finished round 2 here with James. It was a very fun game, very enjoyable against the Ironstorm list. Very brutal on both sides, killed a lot of stuff. But I ended up pulling out the win 45 to 69, with a lot of carnage being dealt by the Stern Guard into a lot of key units being able to kill a massive brick of assault intercessors, and being able to do a lion's share of the work against a massive brick of Blade Guard veterans as well. That was slingshot by the Librarian Dreadnought, because that was very fun. So we've got one more game after this, and we'll see how we go. Alrighty, so this game with James, I actually ended up pulling out the win at 69 to 45. The mission itself was Crucible of Battle. We had hidden supplies, so when you were sitting on your home objective, you got a CP on a 4-up. James was really unlucky with getting his CP, whereas I was getting CP quite regularly. I was just able to continuously score my secondaries, and yeah, there was one point in the game where I wasn't able to achieve a tempting target. He did select the center objective, and I just couldn't get control of it. The turn that I did move on to there, and so the following turn I kept it and I did score it. So yeah, getting 69 points here, definitely a big improvement in comparison to the previous game. The primary mission for this one was Scorched Earth, so it's really hard to get max on Scorched Earth. So I got 35 points on primary compared to James's 30, which was really good, and I did score a lot of my secondaries as well, meaning that I did, get 34 points there on my secondaries. So relatively high scoring there, which I'm really happy with that game, to be honest. James' list, really interesting. Blood Angels Ironstorm. Played it a lot differently than what I thought he was going to. He did have Librarian Dreadnought, so he slingshot forward a unit of Assault Intercessors into my face. Then he slingshot the Blade Guard veterans with his characters, and I was just able to have the Stern Guard sit back a little bit and be able to engage with them. So Stern Guard were able to pretty much wipe out the Assault Intercessors in one round of shooting, and then go and deal with the Blade Guard veterans in addition to a few other units shooting at them as well, and just be able to push through those saves and do really nice working combination of using Storm of Fire stratagem for an additional -1 AP during Dev Doctrine and ignores cover. So yeah, 1 win, 1 loss at this point, and then we go into our third game up against Andrew, who's running a Space Wolf Stormlands Task Force. Really Thunder Cav heavy list with 2 big bricks of Thunder Cav, lots of Grey Hunters for objective support. Had Ragnar Blackmane in there with a unit of Blood Claws and a Land Raider, in addition to also having Jarl Stormcaller and Logan Grimnar, both solo, just deep striking to the backfield at some point during the game as well. So it was really brutal. So we're going to jump over the gaming table for the start of that, and then I'll explain a bit more about how that game went.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so we've got round 3 kicking off now, and I'm playing up against Andrew, who is running his Space Wolves. We're playing Hammer and Anvil with Chilling Reign and Taken Holds for this mission. Unfortunately, I've continued the streak of going second in this game, and I've not gone first all day. So Andrew was able to go first here, which is going to be really important for the Wolves. He's running Stormlance with 2 major bricks of Thunder Cav in the Land Raider up the back as well. He's got, what do you call it? Ragnar Blackmane with a unit of Blood Claws and a Lieutenant to go ham. So I've screened out with some scouts, and I've got some backup screening units, so we'll see how everything goes for this turn. But this is going to be a bit of a tough one for the Marines. We'll see how they go this game.
All right, so this game was pretty brutal. We did end up ending at the bottom of turn 4. We ran out of time. We were using chess clocks all day to make sure we played through relatively quickly. The mission for this one was Hammer and Anvil with no mission rule here, so Chilling Reign, and then Taken Hold. So score 1, score 2, score 3 for 5 points each. So I really didn't contest primary that well. I was more trying to deal with those Thunder Cav bricks, which I was able to do. And at the bottom of turn 4... it was a really close game. I didn't end up scoring that much on primary. I only got 20 points on primary compared to Andrew getting 35 points on primary. So I lost 15 points of primary in comparison. However, Andrew didn't do particularly well with his secondaries. And so it was a really close game in the end, the closest one of the day. And I actually did end up losing only just 47 to 44. So only 3 points in it. I was able to make up 24 points on my secondaries, which is great, in comparison to Andrew only having 12 points on his secondary objectives. So I doubled his secondary objective score, but it just wasn't enough to catch up with primary. So I feel as though I could have contested primary a bit better in this game, maybe pushed out a little bit more aggressively. I was a bit conservative with the Stern Guard here because they were a key unit, and I definitely learned how to better use them. From this game, there's a few stratagem uses where I was like, I don't really think I should have done that. So I did Overwatch his Blood Claws when he decided to come out after me. After I used the squad tactics stratagem to move back a decent way, not far enough for a decent charge. So I decided to Overwatch instead of using the 2 CP stratagem for Fight on Death for the entire unit, which basically the entire unit did die, and I probably would have been able to kill a lot more that way rather than overwatching, or I would have interrupted and killed Logan Grimnar, who also went into the unit afterwards as well. So not really sure that was the best play there, but I did the best that I could. I did delay one of the Thunder Cav bricks quite well by staging bikes and using them to kind of go, you can't come through this way. He ended up getting into my backfield and getting the Whirlwind, which is the first time anyone's done that to me, but the Thunder Cav obviously move advance. They also have the stratagem where if you end a move within 9, they can move towards you and end within engagement range, which he was able to do with the Redemptor Dreadnought, and meant that I couldn't get a charge off against them as well. So I ended up getting a decent amount of battle points. There's around 170 odd battle points there out of the 3 games out of 270. So really happy with that overall, I'll be honest. 1 win, 2 losses, 1 decent loss, 1 very close loss. I reckon if that game with Andrew had have gone to turn 5, I reckon I had a chance of pulling it out if I had have just been able to stall those Thunder Cav maybe for another turn, which I had the ability to do so, and I was getting onto those middle objectives, having the bottom of the turn there, and in each of my games, I had the bottom of the turn. I never went first across the day, always went second, and I was relatively happy with my performance. So where to from here? I really think my list is in a good spot. I've had some feedback from Brandon who was like, I think you need a counter assault unit. So I might toy with the idea of, instead of having double Redemptors, maybe a single Redemptor and a Brutalis, so that the Brutalis is there as another threat that is the counter assault threat that can do a lot of damage. But I'm going to toy around with that idea and see what I think of it. But every other piece I do like. The only other one that I could maybe optimize a little more is if I do drop the Phobos Lieutenant and the Incursors and maybe swap them to something else. But really at this point, I really think the rest of the list is in a really solid spot, and I'm in a good place to play at events going forward for the rest of the year. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so that is it for this Wargaming highlights. Hope you did enjoy the brief different style. Being around Robin Day, I couldn't do proper bat reps every turn of what was going on compared to what we normally do for this series, but I think this is a good way to do like more tournament style Wargaming highlights in comparison to, you know, proper recording when I'm not, you know, just playing the one game in a day and doing proper bat rep stuff. So yeah, let me know what you think of this style of Wargaming highlights down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to hit it with a like, turn on that notification bell as well after you've subscribed to the channel if you want to catch more of our content here at the ATWN. Also, if you have any feedback on this style and you don't want to leave it here in the comments, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to come and find us over on Twitch at the Australis TWN Twitch channel, where we do hobbying sessions, live tournament coverage, tournament previews, and South Pacific ITC snapshots as well to look at the Australian competitive scene as a whole. And you can chat to us there, give us your feedback, or if you have any suggestions for other directions I could take this list in, feel free to let me know down in the comments as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.